Into the Nexus is a production of amove.tv. Bookmark Amove TV for other great video games and esports podcasts. Into the Nexus is sponsored by listeners like you via patreon.com/ITN. Welcome back, everyone. We're so glad you took time away from dodging, diving Mephistos to join us for a new episode of Into the Nexus. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, and I'm joined, as always, by Kyle Fergusson. How you doing, dude? Welcome back.
Oh, it's good to be back. Had a fantastic trip to New York City. It was smooth. Got it's always healthy in a strategy game. Take a little break now and then. Get some perspective. And the big perspective I realized for myself while I was gone is, wait a minute, I'm this auto attacky kind of guy. I love auto attacks. I love right clicking, Uther, Zul'jin, Yet right now I'm playing nothing but Jaina and Ana, and I was like, wow, well, who else is good at shooting straight line shots and deciding when to invest in a heavy way? Oh, I guess I'm playing Cassia now.
Yes, welcome. Yeah. Finally, God, took you long enough.
I know. I'm not a win rate kind of guy, but there's a lot of power there, and it just so happened that with the Muradin too, everything I'm doing right now is, threading the needle, skill shot in between multiple people and making timely investments. So hey, here I am, meta man suddenly.
Good, man. Well, also you came back from your trip. And Cassia is still doing well. I feel like it's been long enough that she has simmered, that people aren't flavor of the week picking her, because she's been the flavor of the month. She has made a case for herself, and it has stuck. I think Cassia is in and here to stay for a little while.
Well, and it's clear that Blizzard, because of the size of the relative tanks and support picks, they want to make sure those are very healthy, that they all are reined in constantly and made sure no one's too low and no one's too high. But when it comes to the wide range of assassins and all the kind of mixed schools they come from, this one's a mix of lane clear and assassin. Oh, this one's got a giant killer, but he's an assassin. They kind of just let those sit. And Cassia sat for so long, my skill set is now filled out in that environment. Hanamura's out, which is looking, a little unique with some of those assassin kind of picks like we used to on old Hanamura.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it's a lot of things haven't changed except, Mephisto, who's doing pretty well over there. But, we have a bit of Hanamura talk. Don't expect too much of it during news. We're going to do our best to avoid it because it's going to be the subject of our strategy segment today. But other stuff, before we get into the news, man, I just want to, how's your games going since you got back? Because has the queue been a nightmare for you? Because it has been for me, at least in quick match.
Yeah, it's really long right now, and it does feel a little weird. Granted, we made the game this way in so many avenues. We wanted the draft. We wanted counter picks. We wanted to have that dialogue as we progress through our bands and whatnot. So long gone is the days of Dustin Browder's talents will fill you out. Go for it. And you can. And things are so level dependent that it has to be an even match. So, and people aren't experiencing the even matches they want to. So it feels like a population problem. And for our game that's supposed to be the quick one, it definitely weighs on this community heavy.
Yeah, it's funky, man. I've played mostly unranked this week, and that was fine. My queues for unranked didn't really seem to be any different. But
unranked did get its rotation, so it's a nice, almost more serious environment now.
Yeah, it is. My drafts were, only one of them was really weird. Otherwise, pretty normal run-of-the-mill drafts. Felt like a great way to shake the dust off. But yeah, quick match was wild. I did manage to finally get a quick match in today, and the queue wasn't too bad. But I know for your pregame for your stream, it still took a little while.
Yeah, and we are accustomed to it. We hang out, we talk about Cyberpunk, The Witcher, casting. We find other topics to fill out the time in a stream sort of way. But listen, I do want to throw it out there that I know a lot of people are listening to this show and not playing the game right now. They've got other games to play, and that's fine. In fact, this game, Heroes of the Storm, is fascinating. I'm one of those people that comes in and out of WoW from time to time. And when I'm gone, I still listen to shows. I still check news on it because it's a fascinating game to follow. So people are being like, oh, Kyle, I'm sorry, I'm just not playing that much, but I love watching your streams. Great. Keep hanging out here. Don't be ashamed of that. We love the support you continue to give. And I'm glad we can entertain you while you're off in other games too.
Yeah, I've been hearing that sentiment a lot myself as well. Like almost this, not that anyone is straight up apologizing, but almost this sense of guilt for not playing, and I don't understand that. I mean, I really enjoy other games. I really enjoy other Blizzard games. So take your time, go enjoy them. We're here.
Well, and it's a multiplayer game, and that's the whole reason why you have one of these in your back pocket at all times. You Spider-Man coming out, great. Like you're gonna play it at nauseum, and then you'll realize that the AI always responds the exact same way it acts, and that these variables just aren't there to make this game infinite for you. And as much as you've loved it, you're gonna fall off. And what's it? Well, what's that? Oh, it's Here's the Story. Oh, it's waiting for you. It's right there. It's good to go. Always changing, always different.
Good way to put it, Kyle. And it is still changing, so much so that we should get into news.
We're on, boys! Ha-ha! Let's liven up this place!
Can Stitches play now? Point me to the stage.
So obviously, the biggest news this week is that the latest hero, Mephisto, is here. He is in the live game. I have not had a ton of experience with him personally because I've been playing unranked because the queues in Quick Match were so bad, which means Mephisto's getting banned.
That's fair. I mean, he is sitting at that 48%, which was what we would expect of a sustained spellcaster in this current meta. What am I going to tell you? So, hey, here's Auto Attacker. They're not doing great right now, but guess what? Never runs out of mana and keeps his damage high that whole time. Auto Attacker. How about a sustained spellcaster who can run out of mana? Oh, what a weird thing to have in this current place.
Yeah, man. I think he's doing all right. Like I said, I don't have a ton of anecdotal experience. The one game I managed to get with a Mephisto was also my one loss this week. So there's that, but I don't think it was a Mephisto's fault. It seemed fine.
Well, and Mephisto lacks that early game explosiveness. And I mean, Garrett is definitely one of those that stands out so strong, wins the early game fight with a nice throw. Then you get that level lead. And when you're 3 levels up on Mephisto, you are just a teleporting and god of lightning and having a great time. But until you get that lead, the damage feels tame, but in that kind of tame Gul'dan way. So it's not bad because getting hit by, Fell Flame. Oh, damn it, it's already back. I hate Gul'dan. How dare you get him? And Mephisto has that wig ability. So I feel like this win rate will definitely go up because every game I play of Mephisto, I'm delivering that information to my enemy. And the information is basically, as we talked about last week, your teleport, your Shade of Mephisto, that is not a runaway. It is an engage. You hide, maybe in a bush, maybe behind a wall. Maybe you just know that fight's going to be out in front of you, and you join it, and you're lightning, and you get real loud, and then you go on back. And because of that, there has been a 100% build that is really just over the top in pick rate right now, and it's Malicious Intent. This is your Shade of Mephisto grants you 20% spell power while active and for 2.5 seconds after. It plays exactly the style. You go in, you do what you can with your 2.5 seconds, and you're out. And hey, if you're now in the back shooting skulls, more spell power for you.
Yeah, no, there's a cadence or almost a tempo to playing Mephisto, and it's all built around Shade. And also, second hero in a row, Kyle.
That?
I called it on the talents.
Oh, yeah, you did. That's true.
I called that nice little, because if you look at it in a talent calculator, it's this nice little diagonal starting at Malicious Intent and coming all the way across the Ghastly Armor at 7.
Yeah, the armor, the lightning shield, it really just combos well together. And you're going to get focus fired when you go in. Then you bounce back into healer range. You have that armor for your engage, makes the healer feel very impactful with your kind of bruiser level of health, but still, not a big Asmodani pool. So even an Ana can take care of you pretty well. Ana's doing great right now, but still getting one of those shots and being like, cool, Mephisto, you good? And moving on to the next guy is a great thing to have.
Yeah, because he pops back and it's like, oh, okay, you're safe for a bit. You're gonna, wait until you can pop back in with Shade. I've been I was healing one with a Tyrande today. It's pretty much all I played this week, and it worked out pretty darn well. Feels good. His health moves a decent chunk from a Tyrande heal. Back to kind of his damage and how it ramps up. You do have some numbers in here, and specifically where it lands with his Lightning Nova, it's deceptive.
Yeah, you feel like you're not doing anything. And granted, no real player is going to stand there in your auto attack range, letting you perfectly go, thank you. Let me now hit you with my Lightning Nova at this exact range that matches my auto attack, and that feels real good. But you do over the course of, if you hit every single little pulse, 633 damage. And in comparison, you got Phoenix's Plasma Cutter at 421. A full Hungering Arrow bouncing just on you is 420. Kael'thas Flame Strike, 345. Like, that's a lot of damage. But this play style where you go in with the Shade, do as much as you can over that 2.5, and then are brought back, makes it hard to hit this thing reliably. But you can see why they went with the numbers they did. This is pretty powerful, and only going to get more powerful with level lead, but you got to hit it.
Well, yeah, but the other thing, too, is Lightning Nova lasts the same amount of time as Shade of Mephisto, so as long as you're managing your cooldowns correctly, you should be lining up perfectly for you.
Definitely. It's not channel, too, so you're firing, skull missiles during this. I mean, we look at something like Plasma Cutter, and you say, that deals less damage than Mephisto. Well, he's got a great auto attack, so he's fine. And Mephisto has his other ways to fill that out.
Right. Yeah, now they don't have the exact same cooldown, so Impatience can mess up your cadence, but I think it's fine.
Yeah, it looks like with time and certainly better aim, Mephisto will be climbing up. And what's really interesting is when we look at some of his win rates against heroes. In particular, this is one of the first heroes in a long while, on the assassin side of things too, that's had some really well out of the gate performance against Garrosh. Currently in Hero League, at a 69% win rate against him.
Wow. I didn't realize it was that skewed.
And when we look at Johanna, our top tier tank, as we call her at the moment, 58%. Kael'thas, Raynor, these backliners that can't get to the Shade are being abused by Mephisto right now. And there's a really good opportunity for that draft to work against him. And if Garrosh needs to run in and try to get you, well, first of all, you probably messed up your Shade if he's standing next to it. But he's probably frontlining with the back line behind him, and that's giving you resets on your skull as you shoot through him to the guys in the back.
All of these heroes also do not have a great way to get out of the Lightning Nova. So there's going to be maximum Lightning Nova value on these slow-moving heroes. Probably the exception being Kael'thas, who could gravity lapse a Mephisto, but that's the other thing I'm seeing with these.
Right. I mean, people like Zul'jin kind of fill that same role. You don't have movement, but locking on to him counter-wise, he's probably going to do more damage to your face than you will to him with that 633 damage on just the Lightning Nova. But it's interesting that he's sitting in that place. But he definitely has some serious struggles, and one that is really cute. Someone was like, hey, what do you think of Nazeebo? You zombie wall where the Shade's going to be. And I'm like, that's a cute idea. I wonder how it did work out. 33% win rate against Nazeebo right now.
Yeah, I mean, this is me on Brightwing when I see a Genji. I'm just like, okay, Genji's going to come out. I'm never using my polymorph on anything except the Genji. And you can do the same thing with Nazeebo. The one I would like to ask you about why he struggles so much against this hero versus another is Jaina. Why does Jaina do so well? I get it. I understand where this is coming from. Same thing with Nazeeba Zombie Wall. It's a circle ability. You know where a shade's going to go. You drop the zombie wall there. Same thing with Blizzard. But why is Jaina whooping his butt so much compared to Kael'thas? Both are burst damage mages with circular spells.
It's one thing to be in Kael'thas's face and maybe do a living bomb and all that sort of thing. When you're in Jaina's face, you get hit by the cone of cold. And then you teleport into pre-frosted into that blizzard.
Oh, I hadn't thought about that.
You also, with Jaina and even Gul'dan, who is kind of breaking even with Mephisto right now, you have a CC spike at 10, which makes you a little more powerful than things like Consume Soul and the heroic nobody's taking at a 5% pick rate in Hero League, Durus of Hate, your root.
I would like to say to the Kael'thas's out there, it's been a long time since we've had to worry about Illidan's. But maybe just save your gravity laps for that diving Mephisto.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at Kael'thas's win rate right now, it is really high. And it's the highest it's been in a long time. That is slightly padded out by lower leagues. We are moving out of a double tank meta in the higher leagues right now, and he is really suffering in that regard. So I expect him to even out. But there are some cutesy ones like Junkrat. This doesn't have the win rate backup, but Junkrat's out there. Guess what? Your trap has a setup time. Throw it on top of the shade as soon as he does it. He'll come back auto-trapped. It's awful. I fought a Dahaka last night that just completely schooled me. Every single time I did shade, he actually dug behind me and then stood next to my shade.
That's really clever.
It was amazing.
Yep. And then just scorpion tongue drags you everywhere.
Yep.
I love seeing this kind of stuff, though. I mean, it was what we were worried about right out the gate with Alexstrasza. Eventually, Alexstrasza players figured out how to still get value out of their heal, even though it was like giant tell. And we've been talking about this now. This is now the third episode in a row. When we first saw Mephisto, you were on here being like, yeah, you're going to have to be sneaky about it. You're going to want to go over walls. You're going to want to keep that shade in a bush. Don't telegraph where you started from when you dive in.
It's loud, too. And if it's just in the back somewhere, no one's going to see that thing. You are out there with your hate and your lightnings on your skulls. And in fact, I lose track of him at the moment quite a bit.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy, too. He's so freaking weird, man. I don't want to look at him. Creepy.
He's noisy in person and in ability.
Yes.
He also has a very strong preference on his maps. And right now it looks like, it makes sense, single objective maps with a spawn with some sort of pusher that makes up for his lack of lane presence. Because if you played Mephisto this week and you end up in the solo lane, it's better than Deckard, but it still just feels those cooldowns are so long. Infernal Shrines, Alterac Pass, and Battlefield of Eternity are the only ones that he's really sitting strong above a 50%. And Infernal Shrines, Alterac Pass are both in the 60s, 62-65% win rate.
Interesting. Okay.
So you want one call to action that gets the whole enemy team together for your resets, and then you want to win that objective with something that's going to push a lane. And Spider Queen, yes, 51%. Praxis, oh, it's okay, 48%. And we kind of go down from there.
Do you want him to be a solo laner, though? I know we had the question come up, I think was it last week, 2 weeks ago? I don't know. I know we got a listener question asking, do we think he can solo lane? I think a better question is, do we think he should solo lane? Like, do you think he should have been designed to do that? Or are you in my shoes where I'm thinking, this is clever design to make him not too good at solo laning?
Absolutely. It's a lot like Alarak in that way. They want to limit your ability to clear while still having a spellcaster that's doing, decent AoE damage. And you do have Spite at level 4. And, we just talked about that there is a build with Static Barrier being the main pick. But Spite gives you some regen on globes. If you're being pushed out, those globes will be delivered to you. And you can make a pretty good presence just using that.
Good to know. So anyway, as always, take the statistics with a grain of salt. It's a new hero, hasn't been out for a long time. There's not that many games logged, but still interesting to see. I think we're going to see him climb once everyone gets a little more sneaky with their shades and also know what to do against counter picks like the Nazebos and whatnot.
Right.
So the other thing that went live this week was the Tyrande rework. And I know last week I said that it feels good, but it feels a little undertuned. I take back everything I said. Kyle, I think I've logged like 6 games with Tyrande. I've lost 1.
She is currently flagged as support in Quick Match. She has jumped up some 2.4%, so getting close to 50% in Hero League. And perhaps one of the most shocking things about her is we've really reined in our CCs on our supports, on our tanks over the years. And Tyrande being a support maid kind of makes us feel, oh, you're just like, whoa, how long have I been stunned for?
Yeah, especially level 20 with a certain talent. I can't get over, now getting to log multiple games with her in like real games with real people, not just, slamming AI on PTR to try her out. How old school she feels, it feels like, riding a bike. Tyrande was a hero that I really, really enjoyed in the very, very early days of Tech Alpha Heroes of the Storm. And she seems to be, to me, she feels a lot like she used to back then, when she was more about supporting in utility than being this weird auto burst, auto attack, sneaky assassin thing that they kind of morphed her into. So she's kind of gone back to that. So I'm having this sensation where it simultaneously feels like an extremely old school hero from Heroes of the Storm, but she is so active that she reminds me of some of our newer supports. It's like a decade.
Yeah. Very busy with her auto attacks, wanting to be in the business a lot of the time. Active is a great way to put her. And when I think about where other stun CCs come from in our support front, Uther, Deckard can take a Kenya in the face talent. What? There is really nothing else. And the fact that she can do that at range, instead of being like, oh man, we really need a stun to kind of fill out our front line, but so full of melee, we can't do Uther. Now you can do Tyrande. And you know what? The healing numbers actually line up really similar. Like, Tyrande's putting out some Holy Light level stuff without the self-heal on the back end. With 2 charges, one of those could be the back end heal for yourself. The fact that you had 2 charges to actually get aggressive with, knock 1 heal on yourself, maybe take your talent, your everlasting, to get a bigger heal. A little one for myself, cool, I'm good. And then big heal for my carry.
Yeah, everlasting at 7, unless you end up in a situation suddenly where you have to put out more damage. I don't see level 7 being a competitive talent tier at this point. Like, I don't think there's any other choice.
There is an interesting thing about Everlasting Light, and it's really old school of us all to be like, Everlasting Light, perfect, gives me more heals. I like this. By the way, the text is a little confusing. You have 2 charges of this thing that works in a Zarya Junkratty kind of way. Use your 2 charges, and then time passes, cooldown, bop, you get both 2 charges back. So your second charge, regardless of if you go, you get a heal, A, B, doesn't work that way. It's just the second charge on Everlasting Light that gives the increased heal.
Yeah, it's basically between cooldowns. Think of that way.
But it's easy for us to go Everlasting Light. Okay, but then I need Shadowstalk to do AoE healing. Hold on a tick, because Light of Elune, her heal, has the passive, damaging heroes with abilities lowers the cooldown of this ability by 1.5 seconds. So if you need to do AoE healing, I've got a bunch of melee, everybody needs a little bit of healing, let's Shadow Stalk in a Hero League scenario. But if you are carrying one guy, let's say you have a Malthael and he's your number 1 carry, everyone else has CCs and supports for the Malthael, old school style, Starfall does damage to enemies, ability damage, which means you get more heals. That's how you spam heal, is with Starfall.
Yeah, it's really freaking good. You're right. I haven't really been playing with Starfall, but I think as we all get more used to this healer Tyrande, that we're going to see some pretty good talent diversity at level 10 between the 2 heroics. I would also float the idea that I would consider Starfall to be a little more map dependent. I would be more inclined.
You wouldn't force area fights.
Exactly, yeah. I'd be more inclined to take it on a place that has a lot of, clump. But there seems to be a lot of that in Heroes in general right now, so
Yeah.
I think we'll be okay. But I really like Shadowstalk. I've been really enjoying it. It is quite the strong heal, but you're not wrong, Kyle. Just the passive Unlight of Elune makes a strong argument for Starfall.
It'll be interesting to see where we end up with her. It's important. If you haven't kind of gathered from our conversation here, she is solo heal. You do not need to fill it out.
Nope.
Don't go Tassadar.
No. Also, good level. I think there's good level 1 talent diversity. I think there's an argument for basically every level 1 pick, kind of depending on what you're going up against.
Yeah, I really like how the Kaldori resistance that gives you that spell armor works well with Everlasting, because I can be like, little top off for you, tank, and I know you'll reduce damage you take. Big heal for my carry.
Yeah, I've been getting a lot of mileage out of it as well, just because there's a lot of Li Mings fighting against on Hanamura right now. And
That's hilarious, actually.
It was good before the change, and she's still good now. Because, I mean, before, if you took Li Ming and no one team fought over the payloads because it was an option on old Hanamura, then you weren't getting much mileage out of your Li Ming. But now you are forced. You don't have an option but to fight over those payloads. So you're going to get value out of your Li Ming. I mean, it's so good just lobbing orbs over those damn payloads. Oh, and side note, you know the center wall outside the core? There's no door. It's just an impossible wall unless you're a Genji or a Hanzo.
Yeah.
A Li Ming can throw a max distance orb safely from that and hit the core and get maximum damage out of it.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
That's
Lost
nutty.
That one quick match game I finally got in today where I got to play with the Mephisto and lost. Li Ming was just standing there just laughing her ass off, throwing orbs into our core. Yeah. Yeah, it felt bad. It felt really bad.
Man, and I've been kind of thinking, like, put a well there. It feels bad. You lose your keeps, you lose all the wells, and there's no bonus well to kind of power up on for a team fight. But then Li Ming would just take the well. But maybe at least it'd be in the way of the core. Like, yeah. That's wacky.
It was very strange. Very, very strange. Talk a little bit more about Hanamura later. But
well, speaking of wacky, Tyrande's got some bugs on her.
Oh, yeah, man. Hey, did you ever want to stealth Dragon Knight?
Well, it's only the neutral Dragon Knight, so when neutral, if Tyrande activates Shadowstalk, the statue disappears. For some reason. And then the one that actually works is that if you are Shadowstalk when you climb inside the Triglav will be stealthed. And the gunner can keep shooting because only the driver needs to be stealthed for it.
Yeah, this will be fixed.
Yeah, of course it will, but it's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty absurd. So overall, dude, I'm so happy with the Tyrande rework.
That's awesome.
I've not been particularly stoked on playing support for a while now. Sign me up.
That's fantastic. I mean, that's where it matters, because I got on Tyrande this week, played some games with her, and I'm like, okay. You know, I solved the puzzles I wanted to understand her, but thematically, I just didn't gravitate towards her in the past. So I'm glad someone who enjoyed her in that tech alpha finds enjoyment now.
I really like this design too. You know, we've been talking about the lack of quests. I mean, you can still talent into a lunar flare to quest for her or whatever. But you know, like we were talking about with Mephisto, how he is not a solid solo laner because of the how his trait functions. And there have been times where I've just felt like a god or goddess on Tyrande, just healing like crazy, and then suddenly we're getting like artilleried by a Li Ming, by a Sergeant Hammer. Nothing is in range, and my healing cooldown feels eternal. Like there's just nothing I can do, and there's just something about that I find so nuanced, and I enjoy it so much more than quests in terms of, because I just look at that and I look at the trait on Mephisto as a different way to show your prowess with the hero that isn't spelt out for you in a really harsh roadmap.
Also, we haven't mentioned that it's really good to have Sentinel be a scouting objective interrupt tool rather than some snipe thing.
Preach, hallelujah, dude. I got nothing more to say on that other than it's what I always liked using it for, and now I'm not trying to be an assassin with it.
Though this week I did have a Blaze in front of me. The owl came at me, hits Blaze, and I'm still behind him, like, get down, and just diving out of the way. Oh, it doesn't pierce unless you talents. Oh, no problem.
And then I think it only pierces once.
Right. It is not the train it was.
And even if it does, it doesn't hit that hard.
And then there's no like cooldown reduction. It just
Dude, I
feels right.
I love Harsh Moonlight at 13 as like a damage reducer, especially if like with Mephistos right now, if they are getting, again, I won't have a lot of experience with it, but anyone getting in your face, it's a good way to kind of turn them down a little bit.
Yeah, a great augment for Sentinel to be like a shrink ray and flavored for that with a skill shot that's pretty difficult, but 4 seconds of 40% reduced damage. Add some utility. And it is, 13 is a forced utility level in the first place.
Yeah, and then you can even combine it with Empower, which I didn't feel too excited about because I'm not trying to make Sentinel a powerhouse, but it also reduces your cooldown by 3 seconds. So if you're like trying to go like full hardcore support and really keep everybody alive and you're considering Harsh Moonlight, maybe also consider Empower so that you're having more Sentinels, more damage reduction more often.
That's still a 12-second cooldown, so nobody's chaining these things. Nobody's making the mistake of standing at the curse and be like, oh, no, okay, it's okay, and then getting another one just comes flying in.
No, that's not going to happen. You'll be all good on that. Before we move on from the patch this week, we got a weird Alexstrasza change. Life Binder, the heal over time base heal amount was reduced from 75 to 60. Why?
That's substantial.
I'm so confused by this.
They want more Rhaegar in the world? I'm not sure.
I got nothing. Hey, Alarak got a price cut many years later.
I think it's, you got to keep those prices moving down. But I think they put out another mount. It's 10,000 gold. It's a sort of crystally spiked wolf this week. And also they put out the Athena. It's the voiceover that you know from Overwatch and the battle beginning kind of thing. If they keep rolling out these gold things, then, cut down the hero prices and we'll spend our gold. And I like this.
Yeah.
Hopefully more to come.
I don't think I've had a chance to nerd out about this. Have you gotten the adjutant, the StarCraft announcer yet?
No, I want to.
I've had it like over 2 months now, I think. I can't remember when it was added, but dude, it's like my favorite now. I love getting in there and just feeling like I'm playing StarCraft.
And shards are premium, and I'm holding on to them at the moment, but it is something. I think my most used one it's Alarak. My most used announcer is Alarak.
Yeah, I want like base Zerg announcer and base Protoss announcer as well.
Oh,
because the adjutant is like basically your base Terran one from StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I agree.
Like you must construct additional pylons. I want to hear that. I don't know what that would mean, and it probably really confuse you if you played Probius.
Oh no, I mean all I need is you pick your talent that goes upgrade complete.
Yes, done. There you go.
Sold.
Upgrade available when you ding, so you know. Anyways, moving on into some community stuff. JHow posted to the Heroes subreddit this week a post titled Tank Types, Synergies, Counters, Tips, and More. And I think it's an interesting breakdown or a good way to think about how to categorize tanks. Also, by omission, there's a lot of tanks that he doesn't really consider tanks.
And rightfully so.
Yeah. So the 4 categories are engagement / all-in, area control / sustain / counter / engage, engage / counter engage, and pick off / get 1 kill. So engagement and all-in tanks, he put Anubarak and Varian under here. Makes total sense to me.
What you want to be like, if you are a tank main out there, this is a really good way to classify in your brain what you're looking at developing on your team or what you see on the enemy side. So Anubarak, because he can take damage during his disengage, his burrow charge, he's here in the engagement all in. Once you're in, that's when you get the stun. You follow it up with another stun because they're standing still right in front of you. Anubarak, it's best because of his health pool, the way he absorbs spell damage, and you're going to hit that button right after you pop out or before you go in. It's best to think of him with forward momentum, and certainly Varian. You got to get all the way to 10 before you can even charge an ally. You don't boost the ally to make up for the slow you didn't have, and the damage doesn't heal, so you don't really want to be charging allies in the first place. Varian should be very forward focused.
Yeah. I mean, plus, parry and whatnot. There's so much damage mitigation going on there. As for area control, sustain, and counter engage, Arthas, Johanna, and Tyrael make up this segment. Again, I have no disagreement to throw here.
No, you want to catch. You're catching. Arthas, people jump into you. Johanna, jumping you. Tyrael, heals, sanctification, people jump you. This is the best way to react. Tyrael doesn't have the health to be that far out front. Arthas can't catch up. Johanna's such a great tank right now, such a great mix of all these, that this is the best cubby to put her in if we had to.
Yeah. I mean, I would argue that my Howling Blasts are so good I can do whatever the hell I want with Arthas, but that's me being cocky. All right. Engage/counter engage is next. Diablo, ETC, and Muradin. Yeah, you can do both with these. You can catch or you can start a fight.
Right, and you can peel for your allies. And I feel like this is Jay Hal kind of making a backhanded comment, being like, yes, they're engaged, but could you please peel for your allies once in a while? ETC, Diablo, Muradin, if things aren't going right, stop engaging and use those to peel.
Yes, yeah. I mean, this is something you and I talk about all the time, especially when we run double tank compositions, and especially if it's you and me. It's like, okay, who is actually tanking and who is protecting our back line? If there's only one of you, you can do both, but you need to weigh your cooldowns.
And when you compare this to our previous thought, there's only one of you. You don't want that one to be a Nubarak Varian for the most part.
Right. Yeah. Oh man, that'd be rough.
It can, like, a Nubarak Varian can work out if, like, everybody's ranged and doing backflip Genji Hanzo style and running around in circles because they're so tiny. But for the most part, you just don't want that.
It can be very fun, though. What you just described sounds like a blast. And then our pick-off tanks, your Garrosh and your Stitches.
Get one kill. That gives you the power in the next team fight. And that's what you need to focus on with your Garrosh Stitches. And that's what you should be planning. And a great way to think about this is Cassia, in fact. There's a great philosophy with which ult to pick. If you hit the front line, can you kill them with Valkyrie? That's your big ult. You lay out that triangle and they come flying at you, heroic for Cassia. If you grab a front line, will you be able to kill that person before the rest of the team can react? No? Then you got to go lightning. And that's a good way to think about your Garrosh Stitches. If you're drafting it, something frontline, can we kill it on this team? Yes. Let's get the Garrosh. Let's get Stitches. So often, Garrosh is just early picked. It doesn't really matter. He has so much armor. He absorbs frontline incoming damage and filled out with another tank. It works fine.
Yeah. And that's it. So omitted tanks. The list is
Warriors.
Sorry. The list is notable. Blaze, Yrel, Diva, Zarya, Dehaka, Leora, Cartanis, Chen. Yeah, not on here. Also Sonya, not on this list.
They are classified as warriors, and he's not wrong. Some of this comes down to like reliability. When you look at something like Blaze, well, he has self-regen and engage, and well, it's hard to aim, and you're going to end up somewhere in there. You're not exactly in control of it. You don't have reliable escape all the time because you use that for your engage. It's tough.
Well, while we're on the subject, I know you wanted to talk about the state of the solo lane, and I looked at your notes ahead of time, and I think there's a really interesting way to look at it, and it gives some love to some of these warriors that didn't make J-How's list.
Yeah, it's really important to note that our solo lane right now has settled. What happened was characters like Blaze and Yrel came out, and they were just a little too powerful in the solo lane. They did a little bit too much damage, had a little bit too much regen, and they dominated our solo lane for a good couple months there. But they've all been reined in, as well as Sonya. They've all been kind of reined in. And this has left us again with something we usually encounter this time of year, a very predictable solo lane situation. So let's just say Braxis, because it's traditionally the solo of solos. There's not a lot of let me outpush you and go take a Merc camp kind of business, because you have to go all the way to the bottom lanes to kind of access those a lot of the time. We're going to do rock, paper, scissors here. And realize a lot of heroes are mixes of these. There's 3 categories: regen, damage, and lane clear. Well, guess what? Skeleton King is a combination of lane clear and regen. So we're not going to talk about him. We're not going to talk about Mephisto, who's a combination of damage and lane clear, right? Has a little bit of regen on him. How we're going to talk about like Chen. Chen is a great example of regen. This is your rock. And your rock wins the solo lane by basically outpresencing them, just by being so solid, sitting there invincible, regenerating it all off, little bit of lane clear, and slowly poking that enemy guy a little kick here, a little ninja kick, woo, kicks them. They get worn down. Does it again, and still kind of stays this rock in between. Blaze and Urel really fill out this as well. And this is where a lot of those tanks we just talked about are going to end up. They're your rock. Okay. Those were our old solo lanes because Blaze and Urel were so powerful and such good picks for such extended periods of time. The best way to beat a rock is the paper, is the damage. Like Vala. We're going for extremes here, right? Chen and Vala were picked for the solo lanes. What? Well, just ride with it. Vala has single target damage that is so high it would burn through Chen, particularly with a single level lead. Just click, 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 completing your quests and whatnot. Auto attack build, sure, why not? Greymane, Samuro, like Zul'jin, these characters are so targeted that they can burn through the huge amount of regen that something like a Sonya would bring and force them out of the lane.
There's these lock-on heroes that you talk about so often.
Exactly. And then the final, your scissors. These are your lane clears, your Zagaras, your Sylvanas, your Zuls that can clear a lane so fast that you're going to cut the paper. You're going to overwhelm them. Vala, click, click, click with their guns, can't deal with multiple targets. So you lane clear super fast, leave Vala struggling to take care of the archers and the minions while you run off, maybe soak a second lane, maybe put a Hydra on her and wear her down. So think about this rock, paper, scissors when you go in. And particularly when it comes to the damage and where it's being applied, you're going to see, and this is really going to make a lot of sense as you start looking at your solo lanes that are happening. Thrall versus Mephisto. There's a good, like, 2 kind of weird halves and halves. But Thrall, a lot of his damage is hidden in his melee. So Mephisto wants you to get in melee. Mephisto's lane clears faster than Thrall's when it just comes to range. Mephisto's going to get to melee and Thrall won't. Mephisto wins that lane slowly and pushes Thrall out. Gotcha. And in there we have a combo, but you can see how this sort of regen, this lane clear damage versus the regen damage, one wins out over the other.
Right. Yeah, it makes sense because they don't, the regen heroes, they don't need to leave. It's okay if there's a way of getting pushed in on top of them.
And a lot of this has to do with playstyle. Of course, it depends. If you're Vala and you run up into the Chen lane and you let him kick you over and over again, your health's going to wear down. You're going to have to hit a well. You will lose that lane. But we are now entering a very stable time in the solo lane, and you have to late pick them. And that is really cool. But on Braxis, tradition over the last couple months would say, who's the solo lane? The first guy's like, I got it. No, we got to pass on that kind of thought process. We have to pick later. We have to wait for that rag and say, okay, there's lane clear regen. Let's put him up against a Greymane. He can't handle that. And how weird is that?
Well, less weird now that you've explained it.
I'm glad. I hope, of course, this, rock, paper, scissors is kind of a visual thing, but I hope this made some sense to everybody and can help you figure out that puzzle.
No, it's a good, simple way to kind of frame it. And as you said, it depends, but now you can, it's kind of the baseline, and now you can start adding on to it.
Exactly.
Very cool. Well, before we move into strategy, we want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/ITN. If you enjoy Into the Nexus, we have an opt-in subscription through Patreon. If you would like to give $1 an episode, $2 an episode, whatever works out for you, it helps us out a ton. It's the first episode of a new month. It means we just got paid. Thank you so much, everybody. There were a string of declines, outdated payment information, so we took a big dip, and instantly bounced back. So thank you so much, everyone, patrons and producers alike, for checking your payment info. And if you haven't done that in a while, I always recommend folks go and check it out. There are still some folks in there, so many so that if everyone updated their payment info, we would already be at our next goal. So go and give it a peek. But this week, we want to thank some of our newer patrons. Thank you to John B. Thank you to Bjorn LL. Give a middle name and a last name there. And Richard F. Thank you very much for supporting Into the Nexus. And again, everyone out there, if you like the show, if you get some value from it, and you'd like to give some value back in return, patreon.com/ITN.
On tonight's the night, we give a little bit of, really, I think we spoil ourselves. Tonight's the Patron Bonanza. We're heading into Team League with our patrons, get to hang out, draft in the formal environment. It's a lot of fun. I always look forward to it. Can't wait to play with y'all.
We're usually led on support, and it's fine tonight. All I want to do is play Tyrande anyway.
Sounds great.
I'm healing all your butts. I'm healing them. All right.
I think it'll be an interesting surprise pick, but it may be fought over, 5 friends getting in there being like, hey, can I play Tyrande? And friends are going to say yes. So we might be fighting for maybe first pick.
Maybe. And anyone joining us, feel free. I've played quite a bit of her. I don't mind changing. But if it's like Team League Patron Bonanzas in the past, usually one of us ends up having to keep everyone else alive, but I'm down. Anyways, let's talk some Hanamura, shall we?
Choose a talent.
Choose a talent.
Talent? That seems generous.
I have a PhD in PvP.
All right, so Hanamura, the reworked Hanamura with one payload that must be fought over, that can go in 2 different directions, that the path becomes harder if you're doing well. The core can be attacked directly, a little too directly if you're a certain mage called Lei Ming. It is here. It is in the game. We can play it. We can play it for points. And I'm happy. I've gotten quite a bit of Hanamura this week, as opposed to like when Alterac came out. I felt like I just could not find the darn battleground to come up in my games. So I've had a decent amount of experience on this map. And I gotta say, Kyle, if we could just do like a mini review before we get into strategy, it's weird.
Yeah?
It's strange, and it feels long and arduous.
It is grueling is such a negative sounding word, but the chance for comeback, the way the pathing changes on the payload means that there's always a chance. And right now, we're not very tactical about it, of course. We're just like, it takes longer. We can mobilize, wait for everyone to be alive. That's actually, pretty advanced thought processes. So,
boy, I wish people in my game were doing that, because that's not what was happening. It was a kung fu movie. Everyone running in one at a time as they res and dying again.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that.
It was just the last game. I actually had 2 come from behind victories on this map this week, and 2 pretty rough stomps for my opponents, and then 1 loss. But it's been going okay. It just seems long. The payload itself seems like it should do more when it gets turned in.
It does do a lot, but not the first turn in, which I think is where that kind of feeling comes from. And that's what's going to dictate how we play this game. And right now we haven't all played it a lot, but theories are starting to roll around. In particular, Cavalier Guest did a really good video about the 3rd lane. And let's start by talking about that, because there is a jungle here. There are enough camps in a small enough area that you can have a dedicated jungler from the 50-second mark.
Yeah, I find this to be the most interesting jungle of any battleground.
You get a turret for your team. You give some sight. And, those are both very powerful things on a 2-lane map, particularly when you get to see exactly where the payload is and kind of control that area. Depending on which one you do, which is marked early, you can decide to take one in the enemy's sort of side or take it on the friendly side. So protect your aggressiveness or your defensiveness as it goes on.
It feels very bad to not have control of the sight towers on Hanamura.
Yeah, it's pretty blinding. The way the bushes are set up, getting out of the lanes, it's dangerous to not know what's on the other side of those.
Throw a sentinel through it.
Yeah, or give it a little poke with one of your abilities. Of course, like we've talked about in the past, if it costs you a flame strike on Kael'thas, it didn't cost you your life. So definitely worth giving a little poke into a bush before you walk through it.
Mm-hmm. But back to the third lane.
Yeah, the XP that comes out of these lanes is very interesting. So if you're going to be the jungler on Hanamura, and that's an old MOBA term, just means that you are dedicated to just doing camps, and you don't have to cover a lane, you don't have to push out, then go grab a lane. You basically participate in the opening fight till the 50-second mark, and then get in position and take your camps.
Yeah.
You'd start with the samurai camp, we're going to call it, the big guy.
This dude's got some push power.
He does. His splash is impressive. If he gets to a wall, he will take it out unless he's the first thing in front targeted by the towers.
Yeah. It's solid. Yeah, you're not kidding about the XP. It's very interesting. So the samurai camp gives 200 XP for killing the samurai, and then an additional 250 XP for capping it. However, keep in mind this XP for the samurai camp doesn't scale, so that brings its power and kind of affixes it only in the early game.
In a kind of early game scenario here, you want to favor this camp first always to make sure that it pops as often as possible. Your other camps are going to scale better, and that's where this game starts to get really complicated and cool. Next, you're going to make your way up to your gun turret. You just spent the last minute taking out the samurai. Well, this gun turret has scaling XP. So by delaying it past the 2-minute mark here, you've increased the amount of XP. Let's say you're super slow at this. You're in a lower league. You didn't have to move fast to keep up with an enemy doing the same thing. You're about to take it at 2 minutes, 59 seconds. Wait. Let it cap to 3 minutes. More XP. And you can gamify this a little bit.
Yeah. Well, it's not even. It's just you can just plan your rotation.
Exactly.
Obviously, you might need to adjust depending on if anyone shows up to say hi, but yeah, it's a cool way to think about it. And then the recon camp is also worth a ton. Capping it gives 625 experience for capping the recon camp.
It's more than a full wave.
Yeah.
And you just got it for yourself and nobody else. Another teammate wasn't, on the enemy side soaking it. You weren't wasting another body being there. This is a big amount of XP.
Yeah. So who do you like for junglers right now? Because we haven't been thinking about them for a long time now.
The number one here is Artanis for one particular reason. There are very few heroes that can do the samurai camp with enough health to move on to the gun turret without hearthing or hitting a well. And those basically are Artanis, Rexar, who has a bit of a bonus on this map because he counts as 2 bodies with Misha for moving the payload. So maybe a Rexar map.
Dude, I had a
Gazla.
Sorry, go ahead.
Sonya, and maybe Illidan, but he's really slow. So you'd be a little late to that gun turret for the 2-minute mark.
Yeah. Like I want to try this with Zagara, but I know like early game, it's going to be rough.
You're going to run out of mana.
Yeah.
Too. Even if you did it with full health.
Well, and your Mutalisks and your Roaches are just going to get chewed through.
Yeah. Yeah, with the splash too. I mean, yeah, you
Hydras.
could like...
They won't even be Mutas yet.
Right, there's like a thing where he does the samurai does a front C shape, and if you half a pizza, and if you run behind him, you can keep DPSing and maybe drop the Hydra there, but it's messy.
It's a lot of work.
Whereas Artanis can just be like zuz, 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 and then blade dash to the other side when he does his big swing and then keep on zuzzing. Artanis is number one here as of right now in our current understanding. For one reason. On the recon camp, you have sight. You take the camp, you kill the little guys, you have sight. An enemy comes in and kills the sight guys, but through that entire thing, you have sight. They start to cap it. It goes neutral when the 3 dudes die. You swap them off. Now you're on the pad, recapture it, 625 XP.
Oh, that's so brutal.
Yeah.
That's so mean.
And you had sight that whole time, even through the neutral phase.
So you retain sight until it is completely taken away from you.
Yes.
That's very cool.
And think of where that wall is. You can stand on the other side of the wall, blade dash through it, swap, and he's on the other side of a wall. He can't even walk back on if he was fast enough.
Yeah, what hero is? What hero can move fast enough to deal with this? Not Mephisto, because he's going to snap back.
Right. Like Uriel, if she's hitting her D. I mean, there's really not a lot that can be done.
That is extremely cute.
Yeah, it is very cute. But currently, Artanis appears to be the #1 jungler for this fine map.
Yeah.
There's also some ebb and flow to the objective worth talking about.
Okay. So we're moving on to the payload.
Yep. So this payload works a lot like Sky Temple is probably a better comparison. As far as we know, when it's completed, it'll load up kind of Blackheart's base style and start firing. And it'll fire if delivered in the top, making its way downward. So closest buildings to it, the 2 towers and the wall. Then the well, which is slightly in front of the fort. Then onto the fort if it still has shots left. The initial turn-in and subsequent turn-ins will only get a wall with the number of missiles that it has. So if you lose the fight, or if they're just about to turn in, run the other direction. Run to the bottom lane if it's turning in top and just take out their wall. You just broke even. If they're completely mobilized in the top and you're all in the bottom, take that fort. You just outpace them better than that objective gave them.
Yeah. It's you're thinking about the race constantly.
Because it doesn't move backwards either, there's a little bit of Towers of Doom you can play here as well. If you're about to turn in, but you say, we have map control, no one's going to come interrupt this. There's no rush. Go take out the wall. So all those missiles go into a fort instead.
Good thing to think about. Real quick, before we wrap up here. So if we're drafting for a jungler, what does the lane setup look like? Do you get a solo laner, a third laner, and then just shove 3 other heroes in another lane?
Sort of, yeah.
Okay.
Going back to our rock, paper, scissors here, if you had a beautiful solo lane draft and you, let's say that enemy is Vala and you got Sylvanas, you just destroy all the minions and completely overwhelm the enemy Vala. There is time in that situation because her lane clear is so slow, Vala's, that you could run down and start work on a Merc camp, take the gun camp, and then get back in town to, actually defend or, maybe work on the samurai and whatnot, but you wouldn't be very fast at it. There is that opportunity. And we could do a solo combine, but you'd have to really win that solo lane in our rock, paper, scissors mindset with lane clear. Otherwise, clearly Asmodan, I think, is going to see a lot of bans here for a long time because his solo lane presence is very high. The ability to basically take up what seems like a third of the payload area with one big ball and slam the whole enemy team. Very powerful and was in the past. As for what our 3-stack looks like, I'm not sure yet. I mean, I think on a personal level, I'd like, one of our top healers, let's say Ana, and maybe like a Muradin, so I don't have to heal the Muradin all the time, so I can focus on keeping my carries damage high. A nice little core comp. But they will get pushed out to the 4. So we got to hope that you're getting more value out of those camps and in your solo lane than the enemy.
All good points. Thanks for the tips, Kyle. I had an amazing game with Rexar on my team. I think I think it was my first live, patch Hanamura game, as a matter of fact. Because at first I was just like, what? Rexar, I haven't seen that in a while. And it totally worked out.
The drafted game?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, worked out very well.
I'm really excited to see if he can have some viability again and make that comeback. We see him from time to time on things like Spider Queen. I certainly haven't in my own games, but I enjoy a pocket Rexar.
I'm gonna make note of that. If I see an opening for a Rexar tonight on a Hanamura, I think I'm gonna take it.
Well, it's not in the ranked rotation yet, so we won't face in Team League or Hero League. It currently is in that reduced rotation, unranked, and in quick match.
Good point to bring up. So, anyways, check that out. Play Li Ming, and let's take some emails.
Darkness stopped calling.
Hold on. Darkness just texted me.
Okay, tell him I'm not here.
If you want to be a part of Into the Nexus, you can write in itncast@gmail.com. Marmot0 wrote in to our show and said that he climbed from Silver 5 to Gold 5, and that the climb took 232 Hero League games over the course of 2 years. And Marmot0 provided some quick tips for aspiring climbers, and I think there's some great tips in here.
Yeah, well, congratulations, Marmot. That is a lot of dedication, a lot of learning. Really cool to see that you were able to pull that off and that you just stuck with the game.
Yeah, but let's get into some of Marmot's tips here. The first is that the best practice for Hero League is Hero League.
Too true.
Yeah, we get asked all the time, what do we think the best practice is? And I think you and I are both in the camp of play one whatever mode just to get your fingers warmed up, and then start slamming Hero League games.
It's tough, of course, emotions, ego, all those sort of things come into play, particularly when you're, let's say you are Gold 1 and you fall to Gold 2, Gold 3. Oh my God, I must suck. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with this game? Everybody sucks but me. And then you hit Gold 4. At least this is how my brain kind of works in time. I'm like, it's time to relax. What is it I always want? I wanted to get good at cast. Yeah, let's get good at cast. I've been wanting that for a while. Let's get off the old mainstays and figure out something new.
And a lot of times that's where you see progress, is when you start thinking about the game in a different way. Because, you just have to start looking at things differently.
Across my lessons, there's definitely been one through line that if you play a lot of Team League, you're not going to be too hot at Hero League. It's a very different environment.
Yeah. You're coordinating, and it's comfortable. You're playing with friends. You have a support network. Where do you fall on duo queuing? Do you want that to come back? Been seeing people talking about it again in Hero League.
Yeah, I think it's sad that we don't have a solid environment for those players, and there's also the 4-stack problem. I think I'd be okay with it. Of course, in a preferred world, I think I'll always say I love the solo queue, everybody's solo queue experience the most, because it is such a unique thing. And in my league, it is not a toxic, awful thing. It's rather dynamic. It's got some really cool thoughts. I get exposed to so many new thoughts and ideas. I'm not bullied by two people wanting to do their thing and we're not following along with it. For the health of the queues right now, it's easy to say yes. I think in a perfect world, I'd say no.
Nice nuanced answer, Kyle.
No, I'm sorry for the back and forth, but
no. I'm not making fun of you. It's the internet. Usually it's like yes or no. Yeah, how could you disagree? Yada, yada, yada. But that is a good nuanced answer. I just miss duo queuing with you, but that's about the only reason I miss it.
And we have our Team League event, and we can duo queue in a Team League, but it's not the same. And and particularly because I do all these shows.
It's a long way.
With all the.
Sorry.
No, with all the shows I do, I just had to cut off Team League from a serious mode in my head. So when you want to play serious and you say, let's go Team League, I'm going to be like, okay, why don't I pick Mario? I love playing Mario. And you're like, what? No, God, we're playing serious. And I'm like, yeah, but, I play Team League on my stream, with my friends, with, people that don't take it as seriously. Whereas Hero League is like this, I need to practice. And so it's tough.
Well, back to some of Marmot's tips. Brings up communication and says that, if your team is not communicating on voice or text, you can break the ice by complimenting. This is something that you have mentioned many times, Kyle. Say, get the conversation rolling with words of encouragement. Nice kill or, nice moves, whatever it may be. Because, and Marmot brings up a good point that most players are probably scared of toxicity, and by opening up with positivity, it kind of breaks the ice.
That was a really fascinating way to put it, and I haven't thought about it in that way. Perhaps because of thick skin gained from years of Dota and such.
Well, you've also you've been streaming like crazy now for over a year.
it's easy to see that, people are afraid of toxicity and they hear rumors and they expect it. And I think this works the best in those situations. Like you'll find some guy like a Categorizing. They'll be like, man, I'm going to dumpster him. Watch me. I'm going to dumpster him. And I'm just like, yeah, man, show me. Like, let's do it. It's such a great way to just, thumbs up, man. I can't wait.
Yeah, where it's like it's a little too aggressive, but it's like it's not mean. They're just really into it, and it's like cool. Let's back them up. Let's watch this kerosene dump. Yeah, I like it. But Marmot also advocates for quick cast attack move commands, which I can't play the game without anymore.
Yeah. And does go on to say a tip that a lot of people do these days, particularly if you didn't play StarCraft or other RTSs, binding your move to your other mouse button, whatever you may have it set up as, click move for one, attack move for the other.
Oh, that's interesting.
It seems foreign to us that's played StarCraft.
Right. I've used a move for so long that I don't think I'd be able to do it. As a matter of fact, I have an issue in StarCraft because I can't make a move a quick cast. I have to hit A and then click, and it takes me so long to get used to that when I go back and play StarCraft. But yeah, I'm used to just moving with my right hand and slamming A with my left.
Which is why if you ever watch a video and you're like, why is this guy clicking so much? He's annoying. It's like, well, he's probably played a lot of RTS and he's used to slamming that button a couple extra times.
Mm-hmm. And also, if you listen to these podcasts for one, you thought to yourself, what the hell does A move mean? I hope you just had an epiphany.
There you go. I actually turned on one more option this week. There is a option under options where you can set it so that instead of a move attacking the body closest to your character, it attacks it closest to where your mouse currently is.
Closest to where your mouse currently is?
Yeah, so let's say I'm A-moving towards you, and you are backline Tyrande, and I'm Vala. A normal A-move forward would cause me to attack the nearest minion.
Yep, or say a tank's in front of him.
Right, but my mouse is focused on you in the back or in your area, and I will now A-move you instead.
Ooh, I need to try that.
It's worth doing. It didn't matter so much in the past because it's like, are you A-moving? Congratulations, you did it. You increased your DPS. But nowadays, there's so many heroes that are, if you do X to a hero, you get X back. And it's just making sure you're not attacking something random nearby has become way more important.
Oh, Fibble brings up a good point. That would be amazing on Tracer.
Yeah, because you're constantly darting around.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Tracer, great Mephisto counter.
You think?
Yeah, it's pretty easy to stay outside the lightning.
Yeah, it is. There were more points in here I'm kind of highlighting, but the one I wanted to mention before we leave is that Marmot brought up that Silver League encompasses 35% of the Hero League player base. So if you climb from Silver 5 to Gold 5, you have moved from being a 7th percentile Heroes player to a 42nd percentile, and that is a huge accomplishment. And also why it is hard to climb out of Silver.
Among other things, that's where, other trolls end up and people with computers that disconnect end up. There's a lot of folks in there, but you're absolutely right. That is definitely a note worth making that each one of those rungs, each 200 points you get is worth way more points than the higher leagues get.
Yeah. So thank you for writing in and sharing your climb with us, Marmot. I think you brought up some great points. If anyone wants to read them in full, head on over to amove.tv and find the episode 233 post for Into the Nexus. You can find it in the show notes linked below. So go and check it out. Keep writing in, itncast@gmail.com. It's going to bring us to the end of this episode. Thanks again to our patrons for supporting us. If you like Into the Nexus, if you want us to have Dunk Train and other pros back on and pay them for their time, we just need a few more patrons. It's like, I don't know, like $41, $22. You know the math. Go check it out. Patreon.com/ITN. Huge thanks to our producers, Declan H., Cheesy Bob, and Pathagos. Thank you very much, gentlemen. The Into the Nexus t-shirt is available over at shirts.amove.tv if you want to get an ITN t-shirt. We also have coffee mugs, pint glasses, stuff like that are etched with ITN logos over at etched.amove.tv. You can catch us live Thursdays. We are back to Thursdays at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 2 p.m. Pacific on twitch.tv/amovetv. And you can follow us on Twitter at ITMcast. Usually, if we have to change the time for things like Kyle flying to New York, that's where you will see news about the changing schedule. So, before we go, though, Kyle, you do all sorts of other stuff. You stream Heroes, you roleplay D&D live in front of an audience of Twitch. Where can everybody find you?
Well, this week, I love doing ITN. And if you enjoyed this show, as we've heard so many of you do, and when you finally check out a show called Weak Sauce, you're like, oh, this is just more, but not Heroes. You should check out Weak Sauce, a fabulous podcast with myself, Garrett Weinzierl here, and we talk about all sorts of things. I can assure you we'll be talking a lot this next week about Cyberpunk.
Ooh.
Yes.
Thank you for the warning. I have watched nothing of it because it's still so far away from playing that I don't want to watch anything.
Yeah, I understand that sentiment. Now I have to calm myself down over the next year.
That's all right. I have Red Dead 2. I'll be fine.
And Spider-Man, right?
It's coming very soon. I can't buy Spider-Man. I'm not going to be able to beat that by the time Red Dead comes out.
Fair enough.
That's going to be like, maybe I'll buy it around Christmas when nobody wants to give me freelance because no one's working and I'm just have nothing better to do with my time.
You should also check out our Friday stream. First of all, it is overwhelmingly badass that Garrett here is a part of The Instance, a show that I've listened to for so many years. But you should certainly check out the Instance stream that follows, where we get up to mythics and more.
Yeah, man. Friday has just become a World of Warcraft day for me. I'm on the Instance first thing in the morning. I go to lunch, and then I come back. You, Scott Johnson, and I get together and play a bunch of World of Warcraft on stream. It's fun. It's a good time. The team stream, as I believe Scott's been calling it. So,
I like that.
Yeah. So go check that out. That's twitch.tv/frogpants at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. If you want to follow me on Twitter, I'm Garrett Art. All of the podcasts that I do are at amove.tv. And if Weak Sauce isn't giving you enough content, if the Nexus isn't giving you enough content, specifically WoW, we're talking a lot of WoW on these shows, check out my solo show. It's R2T2, R2-T2, wherever podcasts can be found. I've been talking a lot of WoW over there as well. So go check it out. That's going to wrap it up for this episode. Thank you all for listening. Good luck in your Hero League, Unranked, Quick Match, whatever it is you're playing this weekend. And have fun.
Take care.